The monsters weren't just stories, they had names, and they were coming. We saw them outside the ward stones, 3 men, too perfect, too still, like statues carved from nightmares. Black tunics hung open to reveal obsidian torques at their throats, eyes like bottomless wells, movements too smooth, too efficient, as if they'd been trained not to move like prey. And behind them, Narok, scarred, towering, his veins shimmered with black, and his eyes, they weren't his anymore. They didn't speak at first, only watched. And the shadows behind them, they moved. One reached out, like a claw of smoke, and snapped a rabbit's neck mid-leap. That's when the cold hit me, the kind that presses into your bones, that remembers things you thought you buried. When the leader spoke, his voice didn't belong in this world. "Let me in, girl," he said, "and there will be no more pain." But pain was the only thing keeping me grounded. My hand moved before I could think. The dagger flew, straight for his face. It didn't matter. They smiled, because they were already inside. They stank of rot and magic, not the kind that sings, not the kind that feeds. I tried to fight, tried to burn, shielded Mistward with everything I had. But my magic frayed, my strength bled out. One of them grabbed me, held me close, whispered, "You should fear us, and embrace us." They didn't drag me away, they didn't need to. They stepped inside me. 3 Valg princes, slick with shadow, slithered past my fire, past my shields, into the river at the bottom of my soul. And there, they fed. On Nehemia, on Endovier, on the bodies, the blood, the screams I still hear when the world goes quiet. I gave them everything, not because I broke, but because I wanted them to see, to choke on what they found. Pain, loss, fire. They wanted my body, my will, but they forgot something. I am not a flicker in the dark, I am the burning. I found them in the ice of my mind, curled like leeches, and I set the river ablaze. Narok screamed first, then one, then the last. When it was over, all that remained were 4 obsidian collars hissing in the grass. I stood, singed, shaking, but whole. And when Rowan reached me, eyes wide with something like relief, I didn't look away. Because the darkness had come, had tried to claim me, and I was still here. There was no war cry, no crown of glory. Just ash, 4 collars in the grass, and a girl who had almost disappeared. Mistward was standing, but the stones were scorched. The air still reeked of otherworldly rot. 15 gone, dozens wounded, 1,000 questions. The escape tunnel had been used. Someone let the enemy in. Someone who knew we weren't ready. But it didn't matter anymore, because the Valg were real, and they had crossed the sea for me. Rowan stood beside me, said nothing. But when the king's riders came, offering aid, soldiers, sanctuary, he looked at me like I had already answered. I wasn't just his pupil anymore. I was his equal. Carrying him. We buried the dead, packed the wounded, and watched as the mist rolled back in. And when I left Mistward, when I promised Emrys, Luca, Malachi that they'd always have a home in Terrasen, I meant it. Because I wasn't running anymore. Not from memory, not from magic, not from who I was. My name is Aelin Galathynius, and this time the fire goes with me.
They taught us that witches don't cry. That mercy is a lie the weak invented. And I believed them. My grandmother gave me my iron teeth, said they were a gift from the 3-faced goddess, blessing and curse, weapon and inheritance. I was still a child when she taught me how to kill. We are Blackbeak, daughters of the Iron Teeth. We kill without sound, We bleed without weakness. We obey. At 16, I slit the throat of a Crocan witch. She wore a blood-red cloak. She begged. I took her heart, put it in a box, and wore her cloak like a crown. They called it honor. The 13 followed me after that. Astrid, Sorrel, Vesta, witches who bled beside me, who never questioned my orders, not once. I thought that was loyalty, that it was strength. 10 years without magic, 10 years of walking when we were born to fly, of aging, of waiting. Then came the king's summons, to the Farian Gap, to wyverns, to war. My grandmother called it a gift, a chance to reclaim what was lost, to prove that the Iron Teeth was still the deadliest force in the realm. She said I was born to lead, to bleed the world dry, and I believed her. The Farian Gap reeked of blood, stone carved by claws, air thick with screams and steel. This was where war beasts were born, where witches came to choose their mounts, to fight, to prove who deserved to lead. Titus was the largest bull, all brawn and hunger, wings like siege weapons, jaws that could snap a man in half, and did. I wanted him, sharpened my nails for it, prepared to kill for it, but then they shoved me into the pit. No armor, just instinct. And behind me, chained to the wall, half his size, a bait beast, wounded, mutilated, raised to die. He didn't cower, didn't lunge, he watched, eyes like storm-racked stone, not mindless, not afraid. When Titus struck, he moved, fast, precise. He fought like he'd survived worse, and learned from it. So I made a choice. I freed him. I cut through flesh and bone, and Titus roared. Too slow, too wild, too used to winning. The bait beast tore out his throat like it was nothing. And when it was over, he came to me. No leash, no command, just waiting. I walked to him, and he didn't bite. I called him Abraxos, after the serpent who held the world in the coils of his will. My grandmother called him weak, a disgrace, small, broken. But she hadn't seen his scars, hadn't felt the current between us. Every mark was a trophy, every wound a lesson. He didn't obey me, he chose me. And for the first time in 100 years, I obeyed something other than fear. He'd never taken a saddle, never seen the clouds. He wasn't worth the sky. They'd chained him for years, used him as bait, let him live, but never let him rise. But Abraxos, he remembered. I saw it when he looked at the mountains. Not fear, not rage, just a question. Can I still fly? So we climbed to the edge of the Rune Mountains, where hatchlings are broken and flyers are born. He stepped to the ledge, and I felt it, the tremble in his bones, the hunger in his breath. Then his footing slipped, and we fell. No scream, no prayer, just air and gravity. The world turned upside down, wings locked, wind like knives. I screamed his name, and over the roar, over the heartbeat in my throat, he opened them. Not perfect, not graceful, but enough. He caught the wind, and we soared. No one saw, no horns blew, no witches cheered. Just the sky, and a beast who refused to stay grounded. We flew over the clouds, dipped through frost, danced between peaks. And he shrieked, not in rage, but in joy, unyielding, undiluted, like it had always been inside him, waiting. And I let go, not as a warrior, not as a Blackbeak heir, just as a girl who missed the sky. They told me I was born to rule, to kill. They never said anything about mercy. The Omega reeked of iron and ash. Wings screamed overhead. Steel clanged against stone. Every shadow watched. The war games began in blood. Wings snapping, claws tearing, covens fighting to earn the sky. I watched, commanded, judged. Iskra's bull latched onto Petra's wyvern, and I heard it, the order to kill. Petra fell. Her mother screamed. I didn't think. I just moved. Abraxos dove, smaller, slower, but willing, and he caught her before the ground did. My grandmother struck me for it. once for disobedience, once for weakness. She said I lacked brutality, discipline, obedience. She said I should have let Petra die. I didn't. That night they brought me a crockin. Blood-red cloak, bruised face, eyes that didn't beg. She said we weren't born evil, that they made us this way. She said pity wasn't weakness, that my choice made me dangerous. She looked at me, not like I was a monster, but like I was someone still worth saving. And I didn't know what to say. Petra lived. Keely didn't. I was crowned wing leader. No one cheered. My grandmother turned away. The blue blood matron bowed without warmth. I walked back to Abraxos in silence, and the wind felt different. I used to think I was forged from teeth and blood, but now I wonder, was any of it ever really mine?
They told me to hide it, the power, the truth, even from my friends. Kyle didn't want to know, said nothing, asked less, because if the king ever questioned him, he'd have to choose. So I lied. I trained, alone, burned through magic I couldn't name, tried to hold it in, tried not to become something I didn't understand. Sorsha saw me, all of me. She didn't run, didn't flinch, just stayed. I think I loved her for that, even if I never said it. I told myself I could control it. The magic, the fear, the future. And then the king summoned us. Aedion, accused. Kaol, cornered. Sorsha, she just stood there, chin high, spine straight, like someone who'd already made peace with death. I begged, dropped to my knees, offered him anything, everything. He said nothing, just did it. I don't remember the scream. Or maybe I do, and I've been screaming ever since. The magic tore loose. I shattered the room, gave Kyle the only thing I had left to give, a window. And then, the collar. I felt it. That click in the dark, when something else stepped inside. When the silence in my head wasn't mine anymore. They still call me Prince, but I know what I am now. Gone.
They said Maeve had answers, but I should have known. Spiders spin webs, not truths. Her court stank of rot and forgotten power. A desk stained with secrets. A bird that stared too long. Even the shadows bowed to her. I stepped into her throne room, dressed in fire and silence. She smiled like a queen who thought I'd forgotten how to kneel. I didn't. I just chose not to. She wanted to test me, to measure what I'd become, so I let her. She called Athril a traitor, said he died for secrets he didn't even keep. But the ring I found in the ice, it said otherwise. She thought Rowan was still hers, bound in blood, chained in loyalty, but loyalty forged in chains will always snap under truth. So I gave her a choice, Rowan's oath, for the ring that proved her lies. She laughed, until I wrapped her palace in wildfire, not to burn it, but to remind her I could do it. She blinked first, and when Rowan knelt beside me, not because he was ordered, but because he chose to, Maeve saw the truth. She would never own me, not my name, not my fire, not my court. I walked out of Doranel not crowned, but claimed, Aelin Galathynius, queen of flame and fury. They thought I'd crawl back, broken, tamed, ashamed. But I walked in silence, and queens don't beg. Sorsha was dead. Aedion was captured, and Dorian wasn't Dorian anymore. I didn't see it happen, but I felt it, the moment they put that collar on him, like a candle being snuffed out in the dark. The king had won, not with armies, not with fire, but with silence and shadows, and no one had noticed. They called me Aelin now, not assassin, not heir, just Aelin. The war hadn't started yet, but the losses had already begun. And Maeve, she gave me Rowan, but I gave her nothing. Not my name, not my trust, not anymore. I carved their names into my skin. My parents, Nehemia, my court, because fire remembers. We left Mistward in silence, no speeches, no promises, just the wind and what remained of me. I wasn't the assassin anymore, wasn't the girl who burned. I was the spark they didn't see coming, and the storm they'll never outrun.